Alrighty, I'm so ready for a good tennis movie. Challengers, it has to be just like King Richard, right? Oh my gosh, close your eyes. Kids, close your eyes right now. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today we're getting into all of my spoiler-free thoughts on Challengers, the latest film by Luca Guadagnino, starring Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, Mike Faist, and I'm really curious to actually get the sentiment from the general audience on this one, because from the critics I've already spoken to, it's very divisive. And I think I know why. Now, if you don't know much about Challengers, the story centers around Tashi, a former tennis prodigy turned coach who's married to a champion named Art Donaldson, but he's currently on a losing streak. So her strategy is to get her husband's redemption tour started by making him face off against his former friend, Patrick. Oh, and Tashi and Patrick also kind of had a little thing too in the past. This movie's dramatic. Yeah, so if you're here for the toxicity, you'll probably walk away really happy with Challengers, but I have my issues with the movie. But there are also positives. So, guys, before I even get into it, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies, TV, and all the news in between. So if you do too, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, like this video, y'all, and get loud in the comments, and let me know what you think of Challengers when you see it. I really want to know what you guys feel about that third act, because, oh boy, but we'll get there. I want to start off on a positive note, though, so let's begin and get into my positives, and it starts with a statement that is probably going to shock you guys, but I'm not really a fan of Luca Guadagnino's work. Is he a bad director? I don't think so, but is he a director who understands you need an equal amount of substance with the amount of style that you place into a film? I don't think so. I'm not the biggest fan of his work, honestly. I've not liked one of his films. I feel like Call Me By Your Name was featuring good performances. It was just the direction and the story didn't really capture me, and there are other reasons I have for not really enjoying his work, but for the most part, Challengers, it's his best movie yet. I enjoyed the build-up that Luca Guadagnino played with in the first two acts, at least. There was a lot of tension, and the way that he messed with the chronology of the story was cool. I was always very intrigued. I want to know more about this. Oh, and then they pull away and get you back into a present-day situation, because what's happening is this movie's story centers around that tennis match between Art Donaldson and Patrick, the two former friends turned enemies. And because of that, of course, a lot of our questions are answered. How did they get there? What's going on? Why are they not friends anymore? And what does Tashi have to do with all of this? And y'all, we'll talk about Zendaya's performance and her character, because oof, the drama. The drama is crazy in this film because of Tashi and because of Art and Patrick. All three of them toxic. But staying on this technical note, so we had good directing, I would say, at least for the most part, by Luca Guadagnino. And when it comes to the editing, it was really snappy. And I've really enjoyed this renaissance as of late of filming sports films or stories in different ways. Look at what Michael B. Jordan did with Creed 3 just recently. The way that it's filmed is incredible with the anime style influence. Here, this is a very stylized way of filming a tennis match, and I actually really loved it. There was some fantastic cinematography by, and forgive me if I mispronounce his name, Sayoembu Mukdipram. Now, he's a frequent collaborator with Luca Guadagnino, so if you did enjoy things that you saw in Call Me By Your Name or Suspiria, you're probably going to enjoy this bit of cinematography as well. Now, the style and grace that a tennis match is usually treated with is what everyone's quiet. Yeah, no, wrong in this movie, wrong. It's very loud in terms of the sound design and the first person points of view, the different perspectives. You also have a great score in this film by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, who are slowly but surely becoming a legendary duo in Hollywood, because their composition, their work, it's got to be one of the best in the game. I mean, here especially, I loved when the movie had this pulse-pounding soundtrack that coupled what you would expect to be a quiet tennis match. You'd hear the grunts and the groans and, the slam of the racket on the court, sure. But when matches get started in this movie, boy, that soundtrack hits, and I loved it. but none of this film really does come together as well as it did if it wasn't for the acting by our main trio. Now we got to start with Zendaya, because her performance as Tashi Donaldson was awesome. I have been hearing a lot of people say things like, Zendaya, oh my gosh, what's the big deal? For me, I believe her track record speaks for itself. What she did in Dune Part 2, when given a bigger platform, of course, by Denis Villeneuve, incredible, right? Here, Luca Guadagnino really does center her character quite often, and I love that she was able to handle the complexities of the character. The subtle emotion behind each scene that involved Zendaya was great. She's one of the absolute best actors in Hollywood, in my opinion, and I think that at this point she's already proven that what she's in has to be a must-watch. So yes, she did give the strongest performance, but that's not to say that Mike Faist as R. Donaldson and Josh O'Connor as Patrick didn't give good performances. But we're going to start with Mike here. He's definitely played up, at least his character's played up, as the innocent friend and the one we should root for. And I do love when movies do this, where they subvert your expectations. They introduce the character one way and you're thinking, great, and then you start to learn more about him and you're like, not so great. I'm thinking of you, Paul Atreides, Muad'Dib. But I do love the fact that Art's character arc is really a catalyst for you to realize, hopefully as a viewer, just like I did, which is, whoa, every character in this movie is toxic. So there's not really a good guy or a good girl, and there's no really protagonist or antagonist. They're all just equally wrong. And when it comes to Josh O'Connor as Patrick Zweg, man, I believe that his character was one of the more interesting story beats of the film. So Patrick is the character that has the most raw talent. He's an athlete who, yes, has a lot of skill and more than art for sure, but he doesn't have the discipline and the right attitude. He's also probably not taking care of himself like he should, but somehow, some way, a certain character is gravitating towards him. You probably know who. But I believe that Josh O'Connor sold me completely from the very first time we meet him to the very last frame of who he is as Patrick. It's a wonderful performance, and I do want to see more of Josh O'Connor because what he was able to deliver in this movie, I'm thinking, man, is he up next too? So we've got good to great performances in this movie, awesome technical elements, and it's Luca Guadagnino's strongest film for me. But there are some glaring negatives here that hold this movie back from being an overall great film. By the end of this film, I walked out and my first reaction was not, oh man, this was great. It was, oh man, what happened? Most sports fans can relate to this metaphor. You can't be a first half team and not finish strong in the second. You gotta be a great team from start to finish to really become excellent. And in this movie, it starts off really well. The first two acts are amazing, but it limps to the finish line by the third act. That final 30 to 45 minute stretch is just a chore to get through. I didn't necessarily love how the film paid off the audience and their patience. The build-up, again, really good in the first two acts, but you get all the way to the final match and you leave feeling empty. I was scratching my head at a certain decision with the story at the end, and when the credits finally ran, I thought, oh my gosh, this third act unraveled the entire movie. It's almost too glaring of a negative for me to even consider this movie like one of the best of the year. It has some of the best performances of the year so far, but it doesn't have overall a quality that I was looking for in terms of a complete story. Now, do I need a movie to always tell me what will happen? No. But if the central focus of your movie is the result of a final match between two tennis players, and I won't say much more than that, but it is interesting to see how they played with a lot of this subversion of expectation, but it was too much. And also, in that second half, a lot of Luca Guadagnino's flaws, for me, begin to glare. You have more style over substance. The movie sort of begins to put itself into neutral and just coast for that final stretch. I felt like characters were making decisions that I wasn't completely surprised by, but what are the ramifications of those decisions, right? I wanted to at least see some, if not all, of that unfold on screen. So I was okay with the subtleties and some callbacks to previous moments in the first two acts, so I appreciated that. But the payoff for me was awful. And you leave the film, at least I left the film, completely void of any sort of emotions that are positive. I was confused and a little upset. I just spent 2 hours and 11 minutes for this? And I believe this is what is going to divide a lot of audiences. You're going to get the audience that is okay with an unclear finish, and that's fine, but you're also going to get an audience that is maybe a little bit like me, which, well, you want to see the payoff and you're hoping it's more effective, and it just wasn't. So overall, you guys, I gotta say, Challengers is a movie that I believe will make a lot of money at the box office. Now, it's not going to be for everybody. You do not take your kids. It's rated R for a reason, okay? And yes, the viral kissing scene that was shown in the trailer is a lot crazier than you would imagine, but it's not the craziest scene in the movie. So I really think that this movie has a lot of good marketing behind it. It has a lot of star power. Luca Guadagnino has his style on this film from start to finish, all right? But again, there's good substance in the first two acts and just falls completely flat by the end. So the movie will definitely divide audiences, and I think that this is the type of film, for me at least, where you really need a payoff, and it has to just give us a result, you know? So I didn't love being left hanging, but yeah, Challengers, definitely a film that, for me, if I even had to rate it, it's like a 3.5 out of 5, but it was writing a 4, maybe like a 4.2, you know what I mean? And then we got to that last home stretch in the last 30-45 minutes, and that's what really hurt the movie for me. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of Challengers. Again, it hits theaters April 26th, so when you see it, please let me know down below in the comments what you guys think. And hey, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because if you think this is the last review of the year that I'm doing, you're sorely mistaken, guys. We're hitting the ground running as we get into summer. I cannot wait. So you're going to want to stay subscribed and turn on those bell notifications. Alrighty, you guys. Well, I'm going to get on out of here and work on some more content. So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Yeah, just tell your friends this isn't your traditional tennis movie, please.